Welcome back to the Behind Their Business podcast, or if this is your first time listening to the show, welcome. I am so glad you're here. Today, our guest is going to share about her experiences of coping with a chronic illness while running a business, raising 4 kids, which kind of blows my mind, just that part alone, and still living an amazing, fulfilling, and joyous life. She actually does something really cool, which she helps people take their sewing hobby and turn it into a small business where they can start to earn money from their talents. And before we hit record, I was telling her that I'm thinking about knitting, and she crochets. So she'll talk more about that. But I just thought that was so cool. I've never heard of anybody doing that before. But she also has some really cool online courses that help people turn their dreams into a reality. And she will also be sharing her story about chronic illness, like I mentioned, and overcoming multiple sclerosis. So please help me welcome Nicky Merrick. Nicky, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, no, thank you. I'm just really made up that you've asked me to be on your podcast.
Oh, I'm glad. You have a really great story. So I'm sure you're going to inspire a lot of people and help a lot of people with this. So let's just start from the beginning. I know you mentioned that you were crocheting and then selling those items. So is that kind of what got you started with your business journey, or like just take us on the journey?
So the business journey, I've been in business 15 years this July, and the crochet came a little bit later. I started as an event photographer. I started a company called Pink Giraffe Photography, and I would go around at events all over the UK, photographing people at those events and selling them prints. And I used to specialize in an alternative. So I did pagan weddings, I did a biker rally, I did pagan festivals, a fairy festival, which was amazing because I love fairies, and anything a little bit different. And I did that only for about a year or so. And I had other companies with my husband as well, and we got married during this time. And I also found out I had MS during this time. And within 24 hours of finding out I was pregnant, I got the phone call to say I might have MS as well. So a lot of things changed that year.
I'm just like, you just said so many things at one time. So.
I'm so sorry. It gets, I don't like to go on too much about each individual thing because there's a lot of things. But yeah, so we were running a nightclub, and it was like a live music venue. It had a biker's bar. It had a restaurant, Sergeant Pepper's restaurant. And this big live music venue on the side. And while we were running that, I registered it as a wedding venue, and we got married there. And I dressed as a fairy with wings. My bridesmaids had wings, and it was amazing. But that was 2008, and the whole sort of financial crisis and recession happened. And I'd like to say that I made a really good business decision to get out at that point, but I didn't. It was purely by chance. We just decided to leave because it wasn't a viable business the way we wanted it to be. And we got married, and then we left. And within a month or two, I had problems with my legs. Now, I'd actually had these problems as a teenager. I've been unwell since I was 13. But during my 20s, I'd been all right. And at this point, I'm 29 or 30, I think, something like that, around there. And so I said to he was my husband by this point, to my husband, I said, this is like what happened to me when I was 13. My legs are not listening to me. They're not doing what I want them to do. And so I was sent for an MRI as a priority. And by the time the results came back, it'd be about 3 weeks later, I'd fallen pregnant. And so I did a pregnancy test. Yay, pregnant. And the next day, boom. Oh, by the way, there's swelling on your brain. You might have MS. So it was a bit of a shocker. You know, we're still in our first few months of marriage. We've just left a massive business and we're trying to fill that void. And 2 things jumped right in and filled it for us, I guess. But I suppose if you're going to have 2 life-changing events, you might as well have them at the same time, because then it's only one life-changing event. Otherwise, you've got to go through the whole thing twice. So yeah, do it all at the same time. And I think that was okay. But so yeah, to skip forward a little bit, because it really could go on, the story, we moved to the other side of the country to be closer to where I'm from, where my family are. And so we moved my business and his business, because we had our separate sole trader businesses as well as the limited company that ran the nightclub. and the 3 kids we had at the time, uprooted them out of school, and we bought a derelict building that's listed. And I don't know if it's the same in the US. We have listed buildings in the UK, and it's like you've got the really old ones like Stonehenge, which is a grade 1 protected monument, and then you've got houses that are of interest, and you've got grade 2, which is what ours is. And so we lived in the garden in a caravan for 4 years while we were trying to get the property fit to be lived in. And we ran a few other businesses. We had a cleaning company, a t-shirt printing company, but all the while I kept Pink Giraffe going. And obviously I wasn't doing event photography because I'd got, MS and babies, and oh yeah, I had a baby as well. I forgot that bit. I had a baby somewhere in there. So I changed Pink Giraffe to I was selling like baby clothes in bright colors, rainbow colors, sticking with my alternative theme that I always had with the photography. I kept that kind of customer base of things being a little bit different, a bit alternative. And I used to sell goth stuff like black baby grows and rainbow baby grows and mittens and hats and stuff. Because I had a little boy, but we're very gender neutral. And I don't mean that we dress him in brown. I mean, we use bright colors, and he's 12 now and he'll wear whatever he likes. He loves rainbow colors. He loves pink and purple. And, so that's sort of where we're at with that. And during this time, I picked up my hobby of sewing, which I've always had. And, to move it forward again, my friend asked me to make a dance costume for her daughter, who's a competitive pole dancer. And I'm like, oh, wow, I would love to do this. I've always wanted to, but I didn't really have the excuse to do it. So I made a costume for her, and everyone liked it. And then people started asking me. And before I knew it, I was booked up 6 months in advance making costumes full time. And by this point, Zed, who's my youngest son, is probably, he's a bit older, so he's not needing all the attention that a baby needs. And so I was able to devote a lot more time to that. But over the years, my MS has progressed. And about 6 months after we moved here, I had to start using a wheelchair, and I was diagnosed as secondary progressive, which means I don't have relapses of MS. I'm just basically progressing and getting worse all the time. So that's a bit rubbish. It's not a lot of fun, but it's kind of easier to manage because you know exactly what you're going to get. When you have relapse remitting MS, you can be doing fine and walking about, going into work every day. And then out of the blue, you can wake up and not be able to walk, which is what had happened to me as a teenager. So when you've got progressive MS, I know that every day I'm not going to be able to walk. Every day I'm in a wheelchair. I know that I can't do those things and that my legs don't work and that this, that, and the other happens. So it's sort of easier to cope with. But we had to make a lot of changes with the house. I've got a wheelchair lift, I've got a wet room that's all accessible, and I've got a carer that comes in who's actually one of my best friends now because she's been working for me for about 9 years. And she's just so amazing that she's one of my best friends. She's really important to me. So she gives me a lot of help and support. I could not do all the things I do without her. And eventually I had to stop making the dance costumes because physically I can't do it anymore. But I really wanted to stay in the industry. So I started helping other people who were running sewing businesses, but were struggling with marketing or website, or, they didn't really know what to do. And I thought, I've got 15 years of business experience here, running all kinds of different businesses. I don't need to help them with sewing. They know how to sew, but I can help them with business. So I started doing that, and then developing courses and writing blog posts and helping people with that. And I've just launched a new course, which is Start Your Sewing Biz in One Day, which is for people right at the beginning who really just want to get started. And yeah, I'm helping those people turn their dream into reality, like you said. And it's just lovely to watch them grow and experience the things I experienced, because we all love what we do so much. It's just a really fun business to be in.
You said so many things. I'm trying to figure out. Well,
I'm so sorry.
No. I'm so glad you did. So first of all, thank you for sharing all of that. And I know that you condensed a lot into a very small amount of time. So I'm just trying to wrap my brain around everything that you just said, because your story is so incredible. So one thing that caught my eye is you said you lived in a van for 4 years.
A caravan. I know that's a different thing in America, isn't it? So we have like tourer caravans that you tow behind a car. And then we have like static caravans that you have at like seaside resorts over here. And I think it'd probably be similar to a trailer in, like a trailer.
I feel like it's like an RV, like a...
No, but we do have one of those as well now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have an RV too, but we don't live in it. Not yet. We will do one day, I think. So it's basically, you can't tow it. It's stationary. It's very thin, like a caravan. And we just parked it up in the garden while we were renovating the house.
And how many kids were in there with you at that time?
So we had the little one, the baby, in with us, and the other three are much older. They're actually they're not biologically mine, but I've raised them as mine. So they were all teenagers at the time, and they were in a tourer caravan next door. So they had their own little caravan together. And yeah, so they were much older. There's 17 years between the eldest and the youngest. They're actually born on the same day, believe it or not, which is kind of weird, but cool.
That is very cool. I always tell people, so my youngest brother he'll be 9 this year, and I'm 33. So people always think that is very strange.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was listening to one of your previous shows about unconventional motherhood, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant to have that lady on. Forgive me for not remembering her name, but
her name's Christine.
But thank you. People just don't talk about this enough, that motherhood looks different for everybody. And our family is not, a conventional family. I'm raising another woman's children. She actually abandoned them. She didn't want to raise them. She just stopped being their mum. And that was before I met my husband. I mean, I went to university when I was 25 because I came back from traveling in Australia, and everyone's like, oh, you're going to settle down now. I'm like, oh no. And I panicked and I thought, right, if I go to university, I'll buy myself 3 more years before anyone starts asking me to settle down again. And in my final year, I met Chunky, who is now my husband. And it turns out the man for me already had 3 kids. So I had 3 kids by the time I graduated, which wasn't the plan. But I would not change it for anything, because I absolutely love and adore them as my own. I've raised them as my own, and I wouldn't have my little one if it wasn't for them, because by being their mom, their stepmom, if you like, I experienced motherhood and went, oh, I quite like this. It's actually quite good. And that led to their little brother being born. So yeah, it's not what I planned, but it is pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Also, just like another part of your crazy story, which I told you, cool.
I tried to condense it and I missed so much out.
No, that's totally fine. So I would love to know, well, I actually do have a random question. So do your kids help with the business at all? Like, do they do anything, or have they in the past with any of the businesses?
Not to a great extent. The girls, our 2 older girls, they were adults by the time we had the cleaning company. Well, I think they were like 17 and 19, or maybe a bit more. Anyway, sorry, they were older. And so they did work for the cleaning company to cover if we were short on staff. They did a bit of cover, just earned a bit of extra money. I employed them both actually as carers for my gran as well, because physically I can't look after my family, my older family. And my dad was ill, and my gran was in her 90s, and they helped me in that way. And I say what they've helped more with is with Zed when he was a baby. They did so much to help me, because obviously I got this diagnosis hanging over me, and it was all like, oh my gosh, I've got 3 teenagers and a baby, and now I've got MS. And, they used to do so much to help. They used to change his bum. They used to go and fetch things. They used to help me with meals, So although they haven't worked in the businesses as such, have done in some ways, but just not to a massive extent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question, how you were managing motherhood in a wheelchair. And I don't want that to come off as like rude. I'm genuinely curious, because my son, he wants me to do everything with him. Like I could not imagine how life would be any other way. So if you don't mind sharing, I would love to hear your take on it.
No, I don't mind talking about it at all, because I think the more people are aware of it, the more accepting they will be, because I do get judgments when I'm out. Some people are not kind. I've had people look at me as if, especially when Zed was really little, when he was a toddler and holding my hand, and we'd be walking along, he'd be walking along next to the wheelchair. And I'd have people looking, and I can hear them sort of whispering like, oh, why she got that child with her? And it's like, what? And Zed had perfect timing once at the supermarket, because he used to, even right from when he was old enough to reach, he used to pack shopping bags for me. He used to load the trolley for me. And the supermarket checkout lady was being a little judgmental. I could see her she didn't say anything, but she was giving me those looks. And Zed just turned around in the perfect timing. He just went, "I love you, mummy." And I was like, "Oh, get in, Zed. That is so cool." Good boy. So I think when I was pregnant, I worried about it a lot. So I got this new baby come in, which was a new thing for me. Although I'd been a mother to 3 kids, I hadn't done the first 7 years. And I was worried about that. Like, oh gosh, am I going to be able to do this? And then there was the whole MS thing, what was happening there. And I thought, I don't want my baby to grow up with a disabled mummy. Like, that would be horrible for him. But what I've learned and what he's taught me really is that he is the most compassionate little guy because of my disability. So when he was, say, like 4 or 5, we'd go to like a play park, and if a child fell and was crying for whatever reason, he was the kid that went and got them and took them to their mom or their dad. He was the one that went and made sure people were okay. And he's got this compassion and consideration for people that I don't think kids that haven't experienced what he has have gone through. So I try and see the positive in it, really, And he would just say that he doesn't have to queue at Alton Towers, which is a theme park over here. So he just likes that. He thinks, there's a bonus for the wheelchair. We don't have to queue. So we just take whatever bonuses we can.
That is true. That is true. You never have to wait in lines. That's actually funny that he says that. Oh, but that's so great. He sounds like such a sweet little boy. I would love to meet him.
Well, I mean, he is about to turn 13, so I'll just reserve a little bit of judgment on that. We're getting to that stage, but it's quite interesting. My husband works away now. He's a truck driver in the week. He used to be in the music industry, but he he had to let his business go during the first lockdown because there was just no music industry happening. But fortunately, he had an HGV license, so he drives trucks, but he's away. He sleeps in the cab Monday to Friday. And so there's just me and Zed in the week and Ronnie, my friend, when she comes. And in the week, Zed will do anything I ask him. And he'll do it normally pretty much within a few minutes, if not straight away. On the weekend, he can be a little nightmare. It's like, yeah, 1 sec, in a minute. Yeah, I'll do it later. And I'm saying to his dad, like, I swear, in the week, he does it for me when I ask. But as soon as his dad's there, he can like let it loose a bit and just go, right, I'm a teenager now, and not worry so much. So yeah, I just have to promise my husband that he does know how to behave in the week.
For sure. I mean, I think that's also good for him to experience that, being a quote unquote normal teenager who doesn't listen to their parents.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't want him to not have those sort of regular, normal, if you like, experiences. It's good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I would love to know, what have you done to maintain this positivity? Because clearly there has been a lot that's happened in your life, and you're just like, if nobody's watching the video, you can't see, but she's just smiling nonstop, and I love it. So I'm assuming you do this with your clients too, when you work with them, like trying to find the positive in every situation. But did you do anything specific to, I don't even know, like journaling or like positive affirmations? Is there anything that you do, or are you just normally a very happy, uplifting person?
I think it's just who I am, but I do have a theory that what I experienced as a teenager has kind of helped shape who I am. So, and I don't think you could fake it either. I don't think you could just go, right, I'm going to smile all day today and everything will be dandy, because it won't. That's not how life works. But I do find it very easy to find the positivity in everything. But if I look back, I mean, I have to think now, when you're in your 40s, you have to sort of think how old you are. I'm 44. I have to check. I'm not always too sure, but I'm 44. And when I was 13, I woke up one Monday morning and I couldn't move, literally could not move my body. And they didn't know what was wrong. They didn't even investigate MS at the time. I don't know why, because I was 13 and, I don't know what they were saying. But I had this temporary paralysis, and it happened 11 times, I think, over the next, between age sort of 13 and 18, I was in and out of hospital with this temporary paralysis that kept happening to me. And I think that first time when I laid there, I was a couple of weeks in hospital, just laid on my back, and they didn't even used to sit you up back then in hospitals. What I was thinking, like early 90s, I think. And they didn't get patients dressed. They didn't get them out of bed. You were just left there. You just laid there. And I had a lot of time to contemplate life at 13. And I remember thinking, is this it? Is this my life now? I'd been a dancer since I was about 3. I'd been very active, doing all sorts. And all I ever wanted to do was dance. And that's why I was really excited about making the pole dance costume, because I loved it. And I've only really realized this in the last sort of 10 years or so, that is probably why I enjoy every single moment of, excuse me. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Bless you.
It's because I talk so much, isn't it?
Yeah. So,
I think that is one of the reasons why I can be so motivated and positive about things, is because I really did think that might have been it at age 13. I thought it was over. So every time an opportunity came my way, particularly in my 20s, I went for it. I was like, I'm going to do all the things. And so that's just what I live by. I carry on wanting to make the most of every day, every opportunity. But I guess also it's recognizing when you need to stop. That's quite a big part of how I cope with it now.
Yeah, absolutely. When you say knowing when to stop, what does that specifically mean?
So because I've got this kind of go get it all kind of personality, when I was first diagnosed, one of the big things I struggled with is, how do I overcome this? Like, how do I overcome what is happening to me? And with time, I learned that you overcome it just by living, just by getting on with things. You just crack on. That's how you overcome it. But I used to fight it so much, and I used to push and push and push. And I'd push myself to such extremes physically that I'd be wiped out for a few days. And I guess if it wasn't for my husband and the support he gives me, which is amazing, he's incredible, I don't think I would have realized when I needed to stop, because he'll often notice it in me before I do. And he'll be like, Nick, you need to stop. And I'm like, I don't want to. I want to do this. And he's like, no, if you don't stop now, you won't be doing anything tomorrow or the next day. And I think over time, I've come to realize that he's right and that I do need to stop. And so now he's not here in the week. I have to be able to manage this myself. And I get up in the morning, and if it's like, if everything's hurting, if I've got brain fog, if I'm struggling cognitively, because that does happen with the MS, thankfully, not often, I have to be okay with myself that I'm not going to work that day. I don't book any appointments other than special ones like this. And I will plan my week around this appointment to speak with you today. So I haven't worked much today at all, because I know if I overdo it mentally, cognitively, I might not be able to function as much. So I can't book regular appointments. I don't do client work. I don't do one-to-one work. I literally work when I'm able, and I don't work when I need to not work. And so that's why I do all the online courses and writing blogs, because sometimes I work in the middle of the night and sometimes I'm in bed in the middle of the day. And it's about accepting that that's what my life looks like now, and that this is what we do. And I home educate Zed, which makes it a bit easier because I don't have to worry about school and stuff. So that makes it easier because he's at home and I don't have to like get packed lunches ready or anything like that.
Yeah, no, that thank you for explaining that. Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense. And it's also so amazing that you do have that flexibility with your schedule, with your time, because unfortunately, a lot of people don't. And especially people with MS who are in your situation, if they have to go to a job every day, I can imagine that that's probably pretty
it's really hard. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I wasn't like this straight away. It has taken me years to get to a point where I can be okay with not doing things, because the guilt that you feel, like I should be doing something, especially when my husband's out working, I'm like, I should be working too. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And it's about accepting that this is what is okay. And this is how it is now.
Mm-hmm. And I know this is not the same thing by any means, but I mean, I have felt that way just as a mom having a business. Like if my husband's at work, for example, and my son wants to play with me, well, that takes me away from doing work. And then I feel guilty because I'm not working. And then if I'm working and I'm not spending time with him, I feel guilty. So of course, not the same thing at all, but the guilt is a real thing. I
think it is. Although it's not the exact same thing, what you experience is the same thing, because you're feeling guilt about something that you shouldn't feel guilty about. And so it is the same thing. It doesn't matter what is causing that guilt, it's still being felt. And so it still needs to be acknowledged and accepted for you to not feel the guilt anymore. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've done a lot of work around not feeling guilty anymore. And I've gotten to a good point where I don't feel that way. I will be completely honest and say there was one time in the past month or so where my son wanted nothing but to play with me. He was like pounding on my office door and screaming and crying because he wanted me, and my heart was just breaking because I was on a client call. And I was like, oh, my heart. All I want to do is go out there and hug him. So I actually did. I told my client, I was like, you know what? We have to take a second. I have to go hug my son. And they were like, oh my gosh, that's totally fine. Right.
I think that people in business have progressed now, and people are far more accepting of that. And particularly with lockdown has really brought it into everyone's into their front of their mind, really, that life happens. And when I first started 15 years ago, it wasn't corporate, but like you couldn't put a mobile phone number on a website because, that meant you were a cowboy and you might not be there next week. You had to have a landline. And I held on to that for so many years. And then I realized that I'm paying for this landline that no one has phoned in about 6 years. So I got rid of that. I don't even have my mobile number anymore on the website anymore. I don't need it. People don't need to call me anymore. And I think people accept that people who are working, particularly working from home, have a life. And I don't know if I'd want to work with someone that didn't, because that's what makes us who we are, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to say purposely, but I attract a lot of moms into my community too. So a lot of my clients are moms, so they understand. So if there's a screaming child somewhere, either on their end or on my end, we all understand what's going on. Yeah. Well, thank you, Nicky. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. I know that this is going to help other people who have chronic illness feel like they're not alone, and just remembering to give themselves grace, because one day is definitely not like the next. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. And if somebody wants to connect with you or potentially get one of your courses and learn from you, where can they do that?
Oh, thank you so much. I've really loved chatting to you. It's been really nice. So I hope it is sort of useful for people. I'm actually just switching to my personal brand, which is nickymerrick.com. And my favorite place is Instagram. So if anyone wants to look me up, it's I am Nicky Merrick on Instagram. And that's NICKYMERRICK.
Perfect. And we'll put all of that in the show notes too for easy access. So thank you, Nicky. Thank you again for being here.
Oh, thank you.